Alright guys, welcome back to Formula 1 news. The Red Bull RB19 has been leaked in a secret shakedown that was done at Silverstone yesterday. Some interesting images we're going to dive into there, but also from the Mercedes side, rumours emerging as to the power upgrade they have managed to achieve, at least in the double digits, that apparently has Ferrari worried. Very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. Loads of shakedowns currently going on at Silverstone. This is the brand new Haas coming out of the garage here today, and we actually saw the Red Bull do the same thing yesterday. These are some images of the Haas. They've said that this year is going to be better than last year. Of course, every team says that, but we'll see about that one. But yeah, these are just some images of the Haas with, of course, Hülkenberg, Magnussen, Gunderstein, and the crew in the background. This also to note, later today in about 5 hours time is the reveal of the Alfa Tauri. So it's happening in New York, so it's later today, but tomorrow we'll see what the Alfa Tauri livery looks like. It's probably going to look like this, but I guess we'll have to stay tuned and find out. Let's talk Red Bull though. We know what their car looks like. Well, we know what the livery looks like, but the car design itself looks probably a bit different. We can actually kind of see even in this image here that the Red Bull does seem, the undercut underneath the side pod does seem more severe than last year's car. The one we saw at the reveal was just, I think, the RB18 with the new livery on it pretty much, but their actual car is going to be at least slightly different on the surface. They do make this clear, spotted in the wild doing the shakedown yesterday at Silverstone, and these were some images spotted from those who attended. Now, firstly, Aston Martin were there as well with some images of their new car. Just kind of wanted to play this one, if it actually wants to play, to see what the car's going to look like on the AMR 23, I believe it is, for the upcoming season, which looks like this. So here it goes around the track. Not too many details to really take from this one, but yeah, livery for now looks kind of similar. So that was a bit of a secret shakedown they were doing there, kind of going down towards the hangar straight. But this is the RB19 on track. So if we zoom in here, we'll find that, and then of course the Twitter account that was taking these images on screen, there are, okay, it's a Red Bull, it's a modern Formula 1 car, it looks what you might expect, but in fairness, there are some things to point out. The undercut underneath the side pod does seem significant. The design at the top of the side pod looks similar, but towards the underneath, it does seem to have a significant undercut, and also the front of the car, the nose, now seems wider, maybe to compensate for some of the changes in the small tweaks in the regulations this year. I think Ferrari generally had a bit of a wider nose last year than Red Bull did, and I guess they feel like this way is the advantageous option. So yeah, these are pretty much all the frames we have of this Red Bull RB19, but you know, that's what people have been reading into. So this is some potential design here of the RB19, what it might look like, what some, yeah, obviously look, it's a Red Bull, it looks pretty similar to last year, but just a few changes I thought I'd make you guys aware of. And even Craig Scarborough came out with his design of you know, looking at these images, what he thinks they're up to. Slightly raised nose, wider nose tip, full length undercut underneath the side pods, vertical flanks, downwash top surface, small roll hoop inlet, some other things we can't really look at, but yeah, suggest less cooling above the engines. Maybe they've got something else in store for that one. So yeah, I guess we'll see, but that's what we know on the Red Bull side for the present time. Max Verstappen actually talked about this and said it was a really smooth day, exactly what you want from a day like this. Of course, he's not really going to say anything else, but nonetheless, the point stands. Quick additional note on Haas, just to show, because of course in the background of these images you can actually see their car. Now look, who knows if this is the actual design of the car we're going to get that turns up in Bahrain. Could be a marginally different one. We've seen, of course, in the past, for example, last year Mercedes turned up with a rather different car in Bahrain than they had even at pre-season testing in Barcelona, but this time, of course, pre-season testing is in Bahrain, as is the first race weekends, and of course the season begins with the testing on about the 23rd of February. Haas have said publicly that they will have a stronger program of updates this year compared to last year. They do have more money this year out with the MoneyGram sponsorship you can see on the top of the car here. So they are probably almost at, if not at, the budget cap for the upcoming season, which is more promising. The only team I think that's not is more than likely Williams, despite they signed this new deal with Golf, but it's not really worth that much money, we believe. Of course, the livery of Williams is not the Golf livery that we saw with McLaren a couple of years ago. Let's talk the W14 then. Some more interesting, or at least more substantial insights on this one than we have from the Red Bull camp so far, mainly to do with not only what colour it's going to be, but also the power unit upgrades they are trying to bring. We saw as last season developed, Ferrari at the start clearly had the strongest power unit, and they probably still do, but the issue was their reliability problems meant they had to turn down the power of the engine, and that affected their performance, certainly in Mexico, for example, when their turbo just didn't want to hack it at all. The Red Bull therefore, was probably the strongest package on the whole. Mercedes had the most consistent engine, the most efficient, well, at least in terms of reliability from that perspective, but it wasn't as powerful as the other ones. They're looking to unlock more potential. We saw at the end of the year, Mexico, Brazil, it was pretty much there or thereabouts, right? Of course, it's not just the engine that results in their lacking top speed. There was also the design of the car and the aerodynamic efficiency, let's say, that was also holding them back to an extent. But Mercedes believe there are significant power unit gains expected that will help them battle with the RB19 and the SF23, which of course are Red Bull and Ferrari's offering it respectively. Now, Mercedes again have been tweeting about the black car appreciation post from 2020 and 2021 where they had the full black livery. The rumor has been, are they going back to the black livery? Are they not? Having teased it and then not doing it would feel a bit bad for some fans. I said, even a couple of months ago now, I expect them to keep it as silver and kind of whatever color scheme they've got at the moment. I think they'll have to be incredibly confident that it's a championship winner to make it black again because, of course, it won championships both times it was black. In 2020 and 2021, different championships, of course, in 21. But yeah, we believe, according to this report, that the W14 will keep the silver and black livery. So yeah, I think they call it in the article like grey and black, but it's kind of silver, bit of black on the car as well. We'll keep the red from Ineos on the roll hoop thing at the top of the car. But, that is, of course, one of the keys. But also more carbon on display. We saw this last year with the Williams, right? The Williams started out last year looking pretty damn blue. It ended the year with a bit of blue and mostly black, just because they stripped all the paint and had carbon, just shown out to the open air, because every, lick of paint you get off there reduces the weight to a certain extent. So if you want to make your car silver and black, why not have the black not as paint, but actually as just the carbon fiber? So, it looks black anyway. I think that might be what they're trying to do. So potentially less design on the car than we might have seen previously, but we believe the silver and black livery will remain, and it will look rather like the W13 with the silver and the black and all this type of features on the car. I think it looks kind of nice, but it's probably not going to go back to a black livery, at least for now. These then are the kind of full updates here from the article that Hamilton Insights put together. We talked about the livery. The next point is on the zero pod concept. They have not completely abandoned this. They've obviously, we kind of know this, right? They've stuck to the zero pod concept, which will remain the innovative philosophy that has distinguished the W13, but they're going to try and deal with some of those problems they encountered before. Now, one of the key issues they had, of course, was the straight line speed. As I say, that wasn't entirely caused by the engine power. The theory goes is that the zero pods, by not having it, okay, Ferrari have a wide side pod, right? And that forces the air that goes round the side pods past the rear wheels, so you actually get less drag from the rear wheels than you do with a zero pod design where the air hits the rear wheels straight on, and therefore that's where you get some air resistance from. Now, I think Mercedes' plan was the zero pod would help them generate more downforce from the floor of the car. As such, they could therefore run less rear wing, and they could gain that kind of lost, drag back through the rear wing. Turns out, because of their car design, they couldn't run the car as close to the floor as they wanted to. As such, the floor and the zero pod wasn't so effective, and therefore the issues with the drag from the rear tires actually affected them because they had to still run the same rear wing angle as every other team, and therefore they lost in the straight line. So they must be confident that this zero pod this time will resolve those issues. They can gain enough downforce from this concept under the floor to ensure they can run less rear wing and therefore maintain the same level of top speed the other teams are able to accomplish. Then again, though, the engine does come down to it to a certain extent, right? And we know that at the start of last season, the engine power wasn't really there, it seems, compared to the top dogs, and they are trying to make some progress. Now, Ferrari say they could gain 30 horsepower. Well, Ferrari say that's a joke and that's not even true. But some people say that Ferrari are going to gain 30 horsepower because their engine was 30 horsepower down last year, or where it could be. Whether that number's legit or not, Ferrari say no. The number that was going around Mercedes was about 16 brake horsepower, and now there's been some new numbers that say it's in the double digits. Now, whether this is 10, whether this is 16, as we said, I don't know. But also it's mentioned here in the article that, Red Bull didn't really want to comment, but apparently this step forward from the W14 compared to the W13 is significant enough to be worrying Ferrari and presumably Red Bull as well, because Red Bull have repeatedly said Mercedes are their biggest rivals for the upcoming season. So Mercedes are keeping the zero side pods. What do you guys think about the engine side of the equation? So according to some of the latest whispers coming out of Brackley, the objective is for the engine to gain 10 horsepower or in the double digits as they hope to reassert themselves as contenders. So engine power obviously key. Now, just to mention again, technically, you can't upgrade the engine power. That's not allowed in the regulations. However, you can improve the reliability and as such, power up the engine to a certain extent and simply turn the knob so it goes faster. So that is what the teams will try and accomplish while retaining, of course, the reliability that Mercedes did enjoy last year. So if they can gain 10 horsepower, we don't know what Red Bull are going to be able to gain. If anything, I think even Red Bull, the rumor was they were going to gain maybe 5-10 horsepower, something in that range. Alpine, Renault have said that, yeah, we're not getting any horsepower, lads. What are you lads doing? We're just here to try and make it more reliable. So, well, it won't be Alonso's engine anymore. I guess it'll be Gasly, so, it doesn't blow up every other week, to be honest. But yeah, Mercedes trying to gain some horsepower. Ferrari will be able to. Red Bull might be able to as well. But yeah, some engine power update obviously is always a good idea, especially if Mercedes can keep their reliability, because I think they brought some upgrades towards the end of last year to their engine. Wasn't all, kind of physical and hardware stuff. Some of it was software stuff where, they can just map the engine to work in a more efficient way in certain conditions that did seem to bring them back to a decent level of competition towards the end of last year. Abu Dhabi, of course, was a bit of an exception in terms of the way the last few races were going, and they were still losing an awful lot of time in a straight line, but any, little will help for Mercedes going forward. Definitely intrigued your thoughts in the comments below. Will this be enough to challenge the front runners, and are Ferrari rightfully concerned about what this could potentially mean, even though the rumor back in January was that Ferrari are going to gain significantly more horsepower than Mercedes are saying that they will, but Mercedes are saying they're going to gain something, which could significantly be an advantage, especially if Ferrari's reliability problems were to continue. So very much intrigued to your thoughts on all this stuff in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.